Oh, let me start by saying I'm very jealous. I was only on Horizons once in my life.
Oh my gosh.
And it was during the 25th anniversary, right before.
Oh, right.
So to hear how it became such a big part of your life growing up, was amazing to see the different ways that you could remember how it was for you.
Thank you. So, I'm sorry. What was your question?
So, can you? I mean, you talked briefly about it, but I mean, growing up, how did it really make you who you are today?
Oh, okay. So, I was always like a kind of a science geek as a kid, and like I loved the Jetsons, and I loved futurism, and like before Epcot opened, we would go to Tomorrowland, and I would be like, oh my god, I want to live in Tomorrowland, right? I want to ride the Wedway to work and do all these things. And then when Epcot opened and Future World, walking the Future World, it just kind of blew my mind. And then when you went into Horizons, when it showed you like the next step, right? These were all like progressions. Like Tomorrowland, like whet your appetite. Future World set you in the setting, and then Horizons was like, this is where we're going. And as a kid who read Popular Science, Popular Mechanics magazines, and all these things, to go on these rides and see these amazing vistas of the future, was like, to me, it was totally acceptable to think that this was one day an inevitable reality. I mean, Tony and Charlie mentioned Blade Runner, but obviously as a kid I never saw it, right? So to me, the future was always full of promise, and Horizons was just a perfect embodiment of that. It was amazing.
Next.
Hey, as an aside, the Twitter handles between Andy and former Jason. Where did that start from?
It actually started as another D23 event when we were at the Expo a couple years ago, and we decided to hop on Twitter and have fun and all riff on the size of Walt Disney World.
I think it was just a goof. Like one of us just did it first as a goof, and then we remember all the old travel brochures. Like they were always trying. If you look at the old travel brochures for Walt Disney World, they're always trying to tell you how big it was. And it was like they didn't want to keep saying it the same way every time, and they were trying to impress upon people the size of the park, and that's kind of where it came from. It's just
recall it was a three of you. I presume.
It wasn't an orchestrated thing. It was just for fun.
Somebody recall.
I don't remember. We were all together, so we were all together at D23 Expo in Anaheim.
Do you guys have any idea what the urban setting actually would have been like?
I'm sorry?
Do you guys in the Horizons, the urban?
Oh, I have no idea, but I'm going to find out. That is going to be my goal next week, is to find out what that urban setting would have been like. Because in Black Swan, if it would have, the interesting thing was, at the end of Horizons there was Nova Site, Mesa Verde, Sea Castle, and then Omega Centauri, right? So my guess is you would have been flying through that city that was outside the window of the apartment. And if that's the case, I really would like to have done that very much.
So are you going to research that and then bring it to the expo in August?
I don't.
I think that's a goal.
If that's a goal,
That's a goal.
I will make that a performance objective.
Your recollection was that really had you ridden the desert before?
I very rarely.
It was space.
I always pick space, and every once in a while I would pick sea. The desert I remember that last week the ride was open. I thought, oh man, I better give desert some time, because we never really did it. We always pick space. The desert seemed, I don't know what it was. I don't know, maybe it's dusty. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm a clean freak. I'm not sure.
I would almost always pick desert, because I was from New Mexico.
Right.
So I was thinking, like, what would the future be out in the desert?
Yeah, there you go. Your family could be Lorange farmers.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good.
The Easter eggs. What do you think is the most unique one that you've done?
Most unique. I think some of the items that we did for the patent drawings that had the layer of Disney drawings related to the stuff that you see in the queue, as well as real patents that we were able to pull from 1850 to 1880 or so, and then even find some that related to opening date of Disneyland having all those layers upon layers in there, those are a fun item for me to do.
And how do you go about brainstorming how you want to do that? Like, how big is your team?
You mean to come up with Easter eggs? You know, what's funny is that we don't really set out to do them. What ends up happening, at least in the stuff I've worked on, when you're creating these worlds, you have to populate them with props and things, right? So your props are basically like actors in a stage set, right? Because if you didn't have that stuff in there, it's an empty room. It's not very exciting. So in the case of like Backstage Magic with Mickey Mouse, we had all these props, and then if it's like it's a hat box, well, you got to put a label on it, and then it's like, well, what does the label say? And then it's like, oh, we could do a Mad Hatter thing. We still make it look Victorian, but it's a Mad Hatter reference. Or like Wyatt had the board. Well, you can speak to this
so
with
when
the
we did our
patents.
asset report board on the back, the image I saw in reference to, when you start needing to fill in different names for everything, what do those telegrams say? We started just pulling from teams and family members and people that we know or other references, Apple Dumpling Gang, whatever it might be.
And we know that a lot of our guests go through these attractions over and over and over. And so if you're going to give somebody something to read, make it worth reading, right? I mean, make it something that's really fun to look at, and that's kind of what we do. I mean, those are the kinds of things we love too. So
Yeah, Backstage with Mickey is
Yeah, I like the stamps.
the
stamps.
Yeah.
I looked at it but never noticed the stamps, and I'm gonna have to go in the queue
Yeah,
just
check them
to.
out.
Last night was actually, the party night was the first time I actually got in there.
Oh, really?
But I didn't spend a lot of time in there.
Yeah.
Like and I've been to the shop a little bit, like a lot of people in the shop. But
Yeah.
I didn't really spend a lot of time with Mickey's.
Yeah. We'll get in there and look
Yeah,
around.
hopefully it inspires people to go back and check things out.
Oh,
Yeah.
most
The
definitely.
stamps seem to take a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, we were talking earlier that there's a lot of great Disney bloggers who go through and scour everything and find all of these things, and no one has found the stamps. And I think mostly because they're camouflaged so
Even
well.
on the screen, because I'm like, I was tweeting while I was except all the words, but I'm like, looking at the screen. The Nautilus is kind of more obvious,
Yeah.
but some of the other ones, like
If you had wings, yeah. And the Timekeeper one, his head is perfect. It looks like it could have been a stamp. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, and plus that illustration was done in sort of an Art Deco style, so it had sort of this really nice hand-drawn look, and so it fit right in with the engraved look of a stamp.
probably people are so they're probably tuned into looking at the writing, reading
Yeah.
the words, so they're not really.
Yeah,
how many stamps? Do you know?
several.
Several. All right.
No, there's one for every attraction that's no longer at the Magic Kingdom.
Everyone?
Yes, so there's like 12 or 13 or something like that, so I can't remember the exact number.
It's on my list now.
Yeah, go take a look.
Next time at the.
Press your nose up against that glass and take a look.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.